What's up guys, it's Rota here and welcome back to yet another amazing video on the channel. For today I got a anti-meta strategy that I think has a lot of potential this format. It does include a lot of aspects that I do believe are really good to have in this meta, and it does really well in the grind game, so I thought I'd bring it to you. I have been testing it for quite a while and this is my refined profile of it. I hope you guys do enjoy, and without any further ado, let's get straight into the deck profile. So starting off with the deck profile here, we have triple of the Amazement Administrator Arcolino. He, in my opinion, will always be a 3-up for the deck. He's essentially a Altergeist multi-faker, and when a trap card is activated on the field, can be your opponent's as well, and it works really well with Infinite Impermanence that we are playing. He special summons himself to the field, and when your opponent special summons a monster, he basically targets it and equips it with an Amazement Trap directly from the deck. He also has this extra effect that during your turn, you can banish attraction traps from your graveyard to basically pop that number of cards on the field. So he, in my opinion, is essentially your heart and soul of this deck. He's going to be coming out the most, he's going to be gaining you the most advantage and disrupting your opponent the most, and in my opinion that is why he is a 3-of. Moving on to the next 3-of here, we have triple of the Amazement Attendant Comica. She's your main normal summon of the deck. That is actually all we are playing of the Amazement monsters. The archetype is fairly small. I don't feel like the other Amazement Attendant cards are that good. I just played the best ones, which is triple Arcolino and triple Comica. Or normal summon, she sets an attraction trap directly from the deck, which is nice because she can't be ashed because it sets. And then quick effect, you can target one of your attraction traps that is equipped to a monster and equip it to an Amazement monster or one face-up monster your opponent controls. It actually only targets the trap, so you can actually equip stuff to Dragoon, which is really important. Dragoon can't be targeted, but this card targets a trap and then equips it to a different monster. It doesn't target that monster, it just has to be face up. So we are playing triple of the Amazement Attendant Comica. And for the last monster we are playing of course the triple D-Shifter. I don't see anybody else playing D-Shifter, and I don't understand why. This deck can play it, of course. You do have to make some compromises, but in my opinion, D-Shifter is worth it. He is a win condition against most meta decks, and is probably the reason that I'd consider this deck quite a good stun deck, this format. I feel like this format is sort of built for a stun deck to take over, because if you can play D-Shifter or playing stuff like that can be only one, you can really lock out most meta decks and then take over the game that way. So triple D-Shifter, I'm not going to explain him because we all know what he does. Moving on for the spells, we have the Roto of the archetype. During your turn, it searches half of the archetype, and during your opponent's turn, it searches the other half. It's essentially that simple. Pay 800 and feel great. The fact it's a quick play as well is really useful. You can activate it during the draw phase to play around Droll. You can activate it during your opponent's turn and it sets your traps, and you can activate them the turn they are set as well, which is really nice. So I just feel like this card will always be a 3-of in my opinion. Moving on for the next spell cards here, we have triple Pot of Extravagance. There's not really much to say. I feel like this card is indeed better than Prosperity in a deck like this, because the +1 is really valuable and you don't care about your extra deck at all. And I feel like you have to really identify how you lose games, and I feel like apart from DPE, because DPE just absolutely destroys, I feel like back row decks, because it can just go +1 every single turn. I feel like getting out resourced and getting outplaced is one of the weaknesses of this deck, and I feel like Extravagance giving you that +1 freely really helps to combat that, and exactly why I am playing 3 Pot of Extravagances. And for the last spells we are playing, it is triple Pot of Duality. We don't really special summon at all during our turn. It's mostly during the opponent's turn when we activate a trap, and that is why Pot of Duality is free. I'm not playing 3 because I don't want to clog on it, and you can play it in tandem with Extravagance because this doesn't draw, it adds you a card. So that is it for the monsters and spells. I felt like playing spells that every time you saw them would guarantee you get you to other cards is really valuable. And now we'll be moving on to the traps. So starting off with the traps, we of course going to be playing the best Amazement trap there is, which is Horror House. If you don't know what this card does, is basically during your turn, it's an imperm, and during your opponent's turn, it's a Book of Moon. Really crazy card and extremely accessible in a deck like this. We have the other traps. We play 2 of the Cyclo Coaster and 1 of the Rapid Racing. Why am I not playing 3 of this card? Well, it's because we're playing D-Shifter, guys, and this card needs to send itself to the grave in order to use its effects. So I'm playing 2. You're not always going to have a D-Shifter, so, you know, you should, of course, play this card. It's really good. It's your back row removal and your other Rota. And Rapid Racing as well is just a way to get rid of DPE. I feel like DPE is one of the really big problems this deck has, and Rapid Racing will just be able to shuffle him back into the extra deck. So I feel like you have to play Rapid Racing. And that is it pretty much for the amazement traps. Let's move on to the other generic traps here. So starting off, we have triple trap tricks. Of course, this is a trap deck, and trap tricks gives you access to all your other traps. So I feel like, you know, it explains itself. We play 3 of this. We play triple of the Solemn Strike, the best trap in the game. It's unfortunately not able to be set via trap tricks because it is a counter trap, but we are playing 3 of it, and this card wins you games alone. It's ridiculous how good this card is. We have triple of the Imperm. This is our other hand trap, so we're playing 6 hand traps, and Imperm isn't really a hand trap in a deck like this. It's more of like a starter because you can Imperm something and summon your Arcolino. It's like part of the deck. So we're playing 6 hand traps, and D-Shifter is an absolute blowout. So I feel like these are the best hand traps to play. I feel like we shouldn't really be playing more hand traps because we're a trap deck and we don't want to be bricking on hand traps. We want to be able to set our stuff with D-Shifter because D-Shifter essentially gets you that free turn. They pass to you, you set all your traps, and then you're ready to go. So triple Imperm. We're playing triple of the Torrential Tributes. Again, this card just lets you go +2, +3 on your opponent. They have a full field. They overcommit, boom, you Torrential Tribute, and then you can summon your Arcolino after everything's resolved. So it's just really, really good card in a deck like this. And playing 3 because I don't think a lot of people do expect Torrential Tribute this format. For the next 2 traps, we're playing double Compulsory Evacuation Device. This can be any 2 traps you want, but I felt like with D-Shifter, Compulse is a lot better than the Ice Dragon's Prison that I was playing because there's not going to be that much stuff in the grave. And this, again, is another out 2 DPE. Put him back in the extra deck and you don't have to deal with him again. So I feel like Compulse is very valuable in that sense. You can also be able to bounce back your Comicas. When you activate this card, there can be only one. There can be only one, again, best Floodgate apart from Skill Drain, I'd say, but you can't really play Skill Drain that effectively in a deck like this. Why it's so good with Compulse is if you have a Comica on the field, since Comica and Arcolino are different types, it doesn't matter. But for example, you can Compulse your own Comica, and then during your turn you can normal summon the Comica again, and that lets you get another card. So I feel like There Can Be Only One is really, really good at slowing down the tempo and getting it to a tempo where you want the game to be. And that is where this deck will shine, because it will pretty much from there out-resource your opponent, because it is really, really effective at getting those Amazement Attraction traps out of the deck and controlling the board that way. So now we'll be moving on to the extra deck. So as I said before, we don't really care about the extra deck, but I guess we have optimized it as best we could. We have one of the Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. It will make sense why we are playing this in a bit. We have the Appaloosa as well. Just generic stuff that we could potentially go into. 1 Topologic Bomber Dragon in case they're playing a lot of monsters. 1 Access Code Talker. 1 Ningirsu. 1 Unicorn. 1 Selene. These are all the monsters apart from the Link 2s that we are playing that are linked to a higher, and they all have quite a lot of versatility. Selene is actually able to revive your D-Shifter if there are enough spells in play. Unicorn is just generic, spin back, and the Link, I don't really think I have to explain these cards to you. That we have Double Dark because he basically gets rid of your DPEs, and Comica plus the Arcolino give you access to either Dark or Liner because they're both light or dark. So this gives you access to all your Link plays. This can steal DPs from your opponent, make it our DP, and then you can use its effects that way. Liner can steal something, go into Selene, or just link up in general. I'm playing 2 of each because we are of course playing Extra. The extra deck isn't important, but you might as well be playing 2 of these to at least have them, more frequently when you do Extra. For the last Link 2s, we have 1 IP Masquerena, again just a quick link into your Unicorn, and the 1 Nightmare Phoenix to out some back row. That is it for the Link 2s. I feel like it's all pretty generic, so I don't really need to explain. And for these 2, it can literally be anything, but I'm just throwing a Utopia and a Utopia the Lightning because Comica is indeed a level 4. These can be, 2 more access codes if you have access to them, or whatever. It's just stuff to sort of optimize your extra deck if you ever do go into them. If it's one of those games, you don't really go into the extra deck that much, so that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy my take on the Amazement Deck Profile. If you do enjoy this deck profile, please do leave a comment down below if there's anything you change about it. Also, leave a comment down below and subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you all in the next video.
It's time! Let's go!